Hey guys, welcome to the Drone Horizon podcast. I'm Alex and today I'm joined by Annabel Owen. Annabel, would you like to introduce yourself?
So my name is Annabel, and I go by the name Annabel Claire on my Instagram. I have been doing drone photography for about 4 years ish, but on and off. Like it wasn't, something I jumped into. And I also do handheld photography as well, which is probably where I more started my photography. And yeah, sort of learning more and more every day. I wouldn't consider myself a professional. I'd say I'm a little bit more of an amateur photographer and amateur drone flyer at this point. But yeah, really hoping to progress more in this creative space.
Cool. Well, thank you for taking time out of your evening to chat with us today. Um, as always, we've asked you to send over sort of 3 pictures that are your favourites, or they've got a special meaning behind them. So we'll start off with the waterfall shot. Now I know this sort of links into your Instagram sort of chasing waterfalls kind of brand. So do you want to talk us through why you've chosen this one?
Yeah, sure. That first image is, it's funny because it's actually not a waterfall, even though it looks like one. But chasing waterfalls was kind of my thing. It's my favorite pastime, which is a bit of a strange one, but I love hiking and getting out and finding a waterfall at the end of a hike. I find really rewarding because it makes the hike worth it. So yeah, that photo though is actually the ocean. It's this really special spot. It's down south of WA. So it's this little place in Yallingup. And it's somewhere that I've visited ever since I was young. I'd always go down south on family holidays. And then I finally discovered this little spot, which is basically like it's a coastal area where the rocks kind of protect the ocean, from this little rock pool. So the wild ocean is right on the other side, and the water comes crashing over the top, and then it sort of filters down the rocks and fizzes up, and it looks like a waterfall, but it's actually seawater, which is really, really cool. So it's a very popular spot now. Lots of people know about it, and very popular with photographers. And then when I bought my first drone, which was actually a Mavic Spark. I don't know if you know of the Mavic Spark, but it was a very entry level drone, and not a very durable, very small, very light, not that high res. And anyway, I took it there on a perfect condition day and was like, all right, I'll get my drone up. Hadn't had much experience flying at all, so it was pretty stressful near the ocean. Yeah, got that shot, and it's one of my favorite shots to this day, even though it wasn't, on a good quality drone. And I've managed to actually blow that image up. It was one of the first prints I did, and I've blown it up to about 1 meter, almost by 1 meter, and it's now hanging over my parents' bedroom over their bed in their bedroom. So yeah, it's a really, really special shot for me, and kind of just highlights how you don't need to have an amazing, like level, most expensive gear on the market in order to take a really good shot.
Yeah, definitely. And I think obviously you mentioned about the Spark. I think the Spark is a great drone, but it's very reliant on having those right weather conditions. I mean, I had a Spark previously, and I've shot with it, and if the conditions are perfect, then you can capture a really, really good quality shot. And I mean, this one is a fantastic shot, and it really, obviously, now that you mentioned about the sort of waves coming in from the sort of background and then coming through the rock into the foreground, it did confuse me to start with. And obviously, now that you sort of explain it and you say that the water's sort of pulling through it, you can sort of see that now.
Yeah, exactly. It's just really special and unique. So that's what makes it such a special spot for me.
Cool. So moving on to your second shot then. So sort of a reoccurring theme in all of these seems to be water. So do you want to talk us through why you've chosen this shot?
Yeah, sure. This shot obviously is a little bit more creative and a little bit more staged than the other one. I don't know why I have this affinity with water, but I just do, and I really enjoy, even if it's a waterfall or if it's the ocean. Ever since I was a little kid, I reckon I was a mermaid in another life. Like honestly, I would swim in the swimming pool as if I was like a mermaid with my, legs together, trying to trying to pretend and imagine that I was actually a mermaid. So that's just something that's always been in me, and I've really, yeah, got this connection with water for some reason. And then when I was just fresh out of high school, I found this company that actually sold like swimmable mermaid tails, and I was like, I was so deprived as a child. I didn't have this. Like, I need to order one, which was kind of a bit ridiculous as a teenager, but I did it. And it's been actually really great because for drone photography, it's been amazing. So that shot, it was taken at another little secret rock pool in the southwest of WA. So Western Australia is my home state, and I've just got a really special connection with the down south. I actually live and work in the southwest now. So a friend and I went down to that little spot, again, sort of near Yallingup. And I was like, you have to put the mermaid tail on and pretend, like it's like one of those rock pools where there's literally like coral and fish. So you can just put your snorkel on and actually see all this in this crystal clear water, which is really, really cool. And it's just so pristine. And I was like, I really want this shot. I just want to kind of capture the magic of this place and sort of show that like this is where you feel like, anything is possible and mermaids could be real and all that kind of thing. So yeah, that's kind of that shot. And then we just had some fun, swimming in the mermaid tail. So every time I look at that photo, I feel really, it takes me back to that day, which was so fun. And it was overcast and nobody else was there. So we had it all to ourselves, which is always nice. So that was really, really cool to capture that shot.
I mean, just by looking at the shot, you wouldn't have guessed that it was sort of overcast conditions. I mean, you've got sort of a really nice colour in both the water and on the rocks, which sort of overall contributes to, I suppose, the what you were going for. I mean, obviously, you said that this shot in particular has sort of good memories behind it, and I think that's what pictures are best for. I mean, if you're not taking pictures to sort of sell as prints, then pictures are there to remind you of sort of a good time, and that's what I like asking people to sort of choose the pictures. And because you get to hear the stories behind shots. If you'd have posted that shot on Instagram, everyone would go, it's a really creative shot, and obviously by having the mermaid tail in there, it makes you sort of double take, because it's not, you'd expect to just see a normal person in there. And I did wonder at first whether it was photoshopped in, but obviously you managed to hire a little sort of a mermaid tail. But I think having those memories associated with a picture like that, and obviously being able to then relive that every time that you look at it, that's what photography is about.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think, being able to capture a memory and a moment is kind of the whole reason I got into photography in the first place. And so, I totally agree. And it's so funny because that photo means a lot more to me than it does to anyone just seeing it. But hopefully that's conveyed somehow. They feel some of the magic.
Yeah, and I think even if you'd have sort of not had the subject in that shot, and it would have just been sort of the rocks, the water, and then obviously the rocks up the top again, I think it still would have been a great picture. But having that sort of subject in there helps to give the scale, but also shows your creativity, because it's not just a person and it's not just sort of someone swimming. Like, obviously they're staged in that picture, and where they are is it's what you wanted to capture from it, and obviously that then contributes to the memory behind it.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's fun to be creative and do something a little bit different, because you often see the same shots kind of a place, particularly a popular place, over and over again. So I wanted to put my little spin on it and sort of make it mine. So yeah.
Have you used this sort of mermaid tail subject in any of your other shots, or is this just sort of, was it specifically for this time?
No, I have used it in other shots. I have used it in when I had my old drone. So that this shot that you see is taken on my Mavic 2 Pro. But previously, when I had the Spark, I did play around with a few other spots, but I just I don't know, I guess the first shot that we discussed had the really perfect light levels, and other places at the time that I shot didn't, so they didn't come out as well on that little drone. So I haven't really shared them as much as now. So that's probably the only time I've shot on the Mavic 2 Pro with the mermaid tail. So I'm really excited to take it with me to some more places that I've visited in the past, and some places that I haven't visited that have been on my list for a really long time. So stay tuned for that, I guess.
I'm intrigued to know, do you put the tail on once you're in the water, or is it a case if you put it on the beach and then everybody looks at you whilst you sort of waddle into the water?
Kind of depends on the location, but it's actually, so it's like a two-piece set. So you've got the flipper, which is a like a double foot flipper, and then you've got the sort of stretchy like bather material tail bit. So you kind of have to sit down and put the tail bit on first. So if you can do that in the water, then yeah, great. But most of the time you need to be like out of the water to do that. And then you put the flipper on and then pull the tail, the bather material over the top of the tail. So it's a bit of a process, and yeah, I've got some weird looks. I actually put the tail on myself recently. I was on a drone photography workshop that maybe we can talk about in a little bit, and I put it on and let the drone workshop people take some photos and videos of me, and yeah, I got a few funny looks from people while I was putting it on, but I think they were just jealous.
Yeah, I mean, it, as I say, sort of being able to relive that want as a kid to you said obviously that you felt like you were a mermaid in a previous life, so being able to sort of reenact that now and be able to capture it in sort of perfect conditions as you've got over in Australia, like it makes it all worthwhile.
It definitely does. I find, it's so nice to, adulting is so hard. It's nice to just be carefree for a bit and pretend that you're a kid and have a bit of fun. That's half the reason you get out there in the first place. And so yeah, I find that pretty good.
Cool. So sort of moving on to your third shot then, which is the beach shot. So do you want to talk us through why you've chosen this one?
Yeah, so this shot is probably the shot I'm most proud of that I've taken on a drone. So I have my Mavic 2 Pro. I hadn't flown it very much. I've had it since September, and I just wasn't confident. I'm not confident flying. I'm not really, with the remote and stuff. And I'm usually like in a bit of a rush because, you feel like, oh, quick, take the photo. So I went on this drone photography workshop, and I learned so much about drone photography. It's not even funny. And I learned how to do the vertical panorama and the stitching. So it just blew my mind, because I have been to so many places where I was like, how have they got the entire beach like in this photo, because I can't get the drone, like the drone has to be so far away to achieve this, which is actually a bit embarrassing in hindsight that I didn't even think or know that this stitching was a thing. So I was taught how to do it, and also doing the exposure bracketing, so getting a shot, one above the ideal exposure and one below, and then merging it all together in post-processing to get a perfect image. So this was the first shot that I tried that with, and I took it's of a beach called Meelup Beach in Dunsborough, which is probably one of the most beautiful stretches of coastline that we have here. It's just the sand is white, like the water is so blue. It's just stunning, and it's somewhere I've always wanted to capture. And having been on this workshop and done the stitch, I was just so happy that I had got a shot that remotely resembled, the stuff that I see from some of my favorite, photographers and Instagrammers and stuff. So yeah, and I'm really excited about it, and it kind of gave me a fresh, sort of spark of motivation, if you like, to continue with drone photography and really get into it more than I had been in the past. So yeah.
I think when you first pick up a drone as well, it can be quite daunting, especially so when I first picked up my drone, I didn't necessarily come from a photography background. I like taking pictures on my phone and, with a digital camera, but in sort of automatic mode. I didn't really know too much about sort of shutter speed and ISO and that kind of thing. So sort of when you pick up a drone for the first time and you're learning how to fly the drone, getting used to the controls and trying to get your composition right and learning all the camera settings, it definitely can be quite daunting. I mean, for myself, I've just sort of figured it out by watching sort of YouTube videos and that kind of thing. But obviously, by going to sort of that workshop, I mean, there's no shame in it at all. Workshops, I think, are fantastic. And if you can come away having learned something, that's great. And obviously, you've got a fantastic shot here to show from it. So, you know, and being able to capture that coastline and being sort of proud of a shot, I think it's a fantastic shot.
Yeah, I think thank you. I think that's a win, you know. And you're right. There's nothing. I've even people went on this workshop who did know what they're doing, and even if you walk away learning one new thing or one tip that you didn't know before, then it's worthwhile. And then of course you meet other people. You know, that's one of the best things is going along and having like-minded people who are all trying to learn their drone photography and fly together, and having that sort of support and having someone with you. I think I usually when I go out to fly the drone, I'm either on my own or I'm with friends who know nothing about photography or drone photography. So it's not quite the same, this vibe of everyone building each other up and sort of having a go and giving each other tips was really positive, and I got a great shot out of it. So yeah, I think that was just, I would recommend it to anyone basically.
A lot of the people that I've had on the podcast as well, they sort of do photography meetups where, you know, they'll go with a group of friends to go and shoot a sunset or something, and they'll sort of bounce off of each other for the creativity. And I think that's a great way of doing it. And obviously it's sort of similar to probably what you had on the workshop, where everybody's sort of trying to better everybody and make suggestions, and everybody ends up benefiting from it. So, you know, even if you can't go to a workshop or something, obviously COVID allowing, you know, you can meet up with friends and go and shoot wherever you want and sort of bounce off each other for that creativity.
Yeah, totally. I think, I've made so many friends through Instagram as well who, people I'd never met before. And then, we just said, oh, let's meet up and go for a shoot. And I love that about photography. It just brings people together. So I think that is such a great side benefit of, being creative and having a passion like photography. So so many people that I've met, and I'm just so blessed that that's happened. So,
and I think when I've sort of shot with other people and you're shooting the same scene as somebody else, you know, obviously with a drone you're able to move your drone anywhere within the air to get that perspective that you want. And I think where people come from sort of different levels of experience, some people will look at a scene and think that's exactly the composition that I want, and being able to sort of, as I say, bounce off each other for those ideas and sort of see someone else's composition and think, oh, actually, I really like that bit, but maybe I would move it here. And, you know, getting those ideas off of someone, because I think sometimes when you shoot on your own, it can be quite difficult to sort of find that creativity, because, you know, you go somewhere, you shoot, if the conditions aren't exactly perfect, you sort of think, right, well, I'm sort of searching for a shot now rather than wanting to capture a shot. So I think that can be quite difficult when you go shooting on your own. So I would definitely recommend sort of anybody go and shoot with people, because I think even if you do it once or twice, you'll notice that your shots will sort of come out, and you'll have sort of better memories attached to them, which is obviously, as I say, what it's all about.
Yeah, exactly. That's absolutely right. I think something I'm going to try and do more often now is go and shoot with people rather than shoot on my own, which is what I'm used to doing.
So we've sort of briefly talked about the drones that you have, and obviously you said you've now sort of upgraded to the Mavic 2 Pro recently. Do you want to run us through what you normally take in your backpack as well? Sort of any sort of DSLR stuff, and do you want to talk us through that?
Yeah, sure. I will take you through it. I've got it right here. I just first wanted to show you the Spark because I actually still have it. It is tiny. Like now that I've had the Mavic 2 Pro, holding this thing feels like literally, it's just crazy. It's so small. And look, it was a great starter drone. It was great if you were not sure, because it was relatively, I mean, it's discontinued now, so they don't make the Spark anymore, but I'm sure people are selling them secondhand. And it was just really affordable to, if you weren't sure, if you wanted to dabble. I know now, like the Mavic Mini is amazing and takes really great quality stuff if you want, to start with something a little bit, it's kind of the replacement drone for this one. And this only had a flight time as well of 16 minutes. So it was very, you didn't have a lot of time in the air. You had to, really rush around. And but it did kind of get me used to the controls and sort of, all of that sort of thing, learning all the just drone regulations and all that sort of stuff. So it was a really good way to sort of dip my toe in the water, which was really good. And then, drone photography, or drones technology, sorry, has advanced so quickly that, I sort of started to get frustrated with the Spark from, it couldn't handle in any sort of wind or any, bad conditions. It doesn't shoot in 4K or anything super high res. And obviously being someone who I do a lot of, DSLR photography that is very good quality, it was kind of starting to irk me a bit. And I thought, I probably want to upgrade. So I was looking at upgrading, and I sort of thought, what am I going to do? Am I going to get something again that's sort of, the middle of the market or mediocre, and then later on want to upgrade again? Or do I just bite the bullet and get the top of the range drone? So I did that because I just was convinced after learning all about the Mavic 2 Pro, which is just an absolute beast. Like, it can handle any conditions. And I love how it can, like compact up like that, because I carry a backpack with me that has my my camera in it, and all my other things. So basically I travel with my drone with 3 spare batteries. Also look at the battery size difference between the Mavic 2 Pro and the Spark. It's hilarious. So I also travel with my Nikon D750, which is probably the heaviest thing ever. It's actually not the camera that's heavy, it's the lens. So I shoot with a 24 to 70 millimeter lens, which pretty much I never take this off pretty much. It's such an awesome lens, and I use a CPL Nissi filters on that as well. I've just ordered some drone filters because, again, on the drone workshop I learnt that filters are a thing on drones, which of course I didn't even think of that. So there's another thing I learnt. And I've got some polarizer and some ND polarizers on the way at the moment, which is exciting. And then I also have a Nissi filter kit for my camera, because I do a lot of long exposure stuff. So I like to shoot waterfalls, as we talked about. And so I need some filters and a tripod, obviously, for that. And that's pretty much everything that I travel with in one little backpack. It's just a backpack I got off eBay like years ago, and it's still doing me good. So
It's interesting that you mentioned about sort of picking up the Spark for, sort of dipping your toe in the water and seeing if it's something that you think you'll enjoy, because I did exactly the same thing. I wasn't sure whether sort of droning would be for me, so I thought I'll give the Spark a try because it was the cheapest one at the time, and I thought I'll give it a try and see how I get on with it. And it sort of just it went from there, and now I'm sort of 2 drones in, and
I'm
now
not the only one.
I think for the price as well, the Spark was a fantastic bit of kit, and obviously it's right for the right bracket of people. I mean, if you're out shooting sort of professionally and using your drone to make you money, I don't think the Spark is for you. But if you're sort of trying it out and want to see if droning is for you and see if you want to enjoy it and that kind of thing, then the Spark's fantastic for that. And obviously now you've got the Mavic Mini and the Mini 2, so those sort of not bottom level, but sort of entry level drones are fantastic.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't regret that decision at all. I think it was the right move for me, being really unsure. So anyone who's feeling that same way, then absolutely, like, starting with an entry level drone is completely a good choice. And you can always sell it afterwards if you decide you do want to upgrade. But no regrets getting the Mavic 2 Pro, because it can handle a lot of wind, and it's got great, the quality on the camera, the gimbal, sorry, it's just amazing. So I definitely don't regret spending that money either. So I've come a long way in drone world, but it's been good.
So with your Spark, is it something that you still take with you now? Obviously, I sold my Spark to then fund obviously my new one. So do you still use your Spark at all, or is it just there as a reminder of?
No, I don't use the Spark. I've kept it because I want it as a backup. If heaven forbid something did happen to my other drone, I'd like to still have a drone in case. But I pretty much leave that at home, mainly because I don't have room for it in my gear. If I'm going somewhere where I'm driving on a road trip or something, I'll bring it along just in case. But generally not when I'm hiking. And it's just I wouldn't use it. It would just take up space, I think. The quality of it's just not where I've gotten to now. So I've started to do a little bit of prints and dabbling in that kind of thing. So I think even though I did blow up an image from the Spark, I think that was a lucky shot.
Obviously, we've talked about the drones that you have and that kind of thing. Do you want to talk us through how you sort of first got into photography and how that sort of led into drone photography?
Yeah, sure. I actually did photography in high school. I went to a private school here in Western Australia, and we had photography as a subject. And we actually did darkroom photography, which was awesome because it was cool to see, what that was like and get that really, intro to photography rather than just leaping straight into digital. So I did that for the last 3 years of high school, and in the last year we sort of moved into the digital stuff. So I guess that's kind of where I first had my experience with photography, and really enjoyed learning about the all the different ways you can be creative with it. I think that was what sparked. I've always been quite a creative person. I've been into creative writing, and always wanted to write a novel, which I still haven't done. But so I found photography another creative outlet. And then I kind of lost it for a few years there. I studied writing and publishing, and sort of was just starting in the workforce and stuff like that. And photography kind of just took a back burner. And then I think one of my birthdays, I was given my first DSLR. It was a Nikon, I can't remember what it was. It was 2500 or something. It was a really old secondhand camera, and I just thought, oh, okay. And so I started slowly to dabble back into it again, and then I used photography as a way to get me outside and hiking and doing stuff like that. So I started to get really into adventuring and that kind of thing. And so I guess my landscape photography kind of just sort of spiraled from there. And I went to live in Melbourne for 2 years. And during that time, I did a lot of exploring on Great Ocean Road and places like that, because there are so many waterfalls in Victoria. It's not even funny. And that's where my photography really began to sort of take off. And I was teaching myself. I'm all self-taught with the long exposure stuff. Google and YouTube is my best friend. And I just started to give everything a go and sort of hone my skills and get a bit better. Started my Instagram, started to build a bit of a community of people who were the same as me, and learning from each other. Met a few photographers, and I guess like anything, once you're in it, you're in it. And then photography was sort of moving into the drone space, and it was almost like if you didn't get on board with the drone thing, were you even really still in the game? But also it was exciting. It's another medium. You kind of I think as creatives, we get so excited to keep creating and create something new and try new things. That's kind of what ignited me to go, all right, I'll give drone photography a go. And also because obviously going to waterfalls, they're quite sometimes inaccessible or hard to shoot, especially when like the tracks or something, you can't actually like get to the waterfall or get the angles that you want. So a drone was kind of the logical solution to that, and being able to get good shots of the waterfalls that I couldn't necessarily access on foot, which I have taken a few shots, but again, they were on the old drone, so I'm still yet to get the new one out there and try some stuff with the filters and see if I can get something remotely similar to the handheld. But yeah, that's kind of been my progression, and then now I'm just really excited to get out and use it a bit more and see what I can do with the skills that I've learnt recently. So,
I mean, obviously, with COVID, it's obviously made it more difficult to be able to go out and explore. But on the sort of positive side of that, sort of through the course of the podcast, a lot of people have said that COVID has almost forced them to go out and explore their back garden a lot more. Back garden, I mean, obviously local area, rather than sort of travelling abroad. For me this year, I'd booked to go to sort of the Lake District. I'd booked to go to Italy and those kind of things. And instead of that, I've been forced to explore more around me. And you can still capture some amazing shots. And I think sometimes we rely too much on travel when obviously what's around you is so great. And obviously for yourself, Australia is so big that you can sort of you can explore it, and obviously you've got quite a wide variety of sort of landscapes and shooting spots to capture. So, what's next for you? Are you planning to sort of explore Australia a little bit more, or are you planning to sort of travel with your drone?
I totally agree with you there. It's been fantastic for people. Obviously, COVID, as bad as it is, and as bad as all the other things have related to it have been, there's always a positive. And I think that people exploring their homes and their backyards has been such a amazing side effect, if you like. I actually work in tourism, so for the Southwest, so marketing for people to visit here, and we've seen so many people who've never been before visiting, their backyards, because they're usually going overseas, right? So um, I've always been a big advocate of exploring your own backyard. Everywhere that I've lived, which, well, look, it's only Western Australia and Victoria, but I always get out and explore my backyard. And so it's really amazing to see other people doing the same. And I love Australia. You're right. We have so many different landscapes, even in just WA. Like, our state is humongous. I don't think many people realize quite how huge it is and how vast it is. Like, the top of the state is like, the desert, and then the bottom is like forest and beach and the whole coast all the way up. It's pretty phenomenal. So, yeah, I've always been a fan of traveling within my country. I have been overseas a little bit. I've been to Iceland. Amazing. So, was a bucket list for me. Absolutely incredible. Need to go back. But at the same time, I'm quite happy exploring Australia. I next for me is actually up north of WA. So I've never done up north. So again, exploring somewhere that I've never been, because I can't really go anywhere else. And so up north, there's really beautiful beaches, and up to Exmouth and Coral Bay. It's where the whale sharks are. You can swim with the whale sharks up there. So I'm doing that this April. So I'm really excited, because I'll get the drone out while I'm on that trip. And then I'm heading across to Karajini National Park, which is a bit more inland. So the first part of my trip follows the coast. And then the second part is basically, there's like these amazing, ancient gorges with waterfalls and all these, like, it's going to be abseiling and stuff down into these gorges of waterfalls. And I'm doing a photography tour there, actually, a handheld one, but in the Karajini National Park for a week. So I'm really looking forward to that. And hopefully there'll be some opportunity to chuck the drone up there too. But I've heard that it's can be a bit risky with the gorges and the things being a bit tight, and not much signal and stuff out there either. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. It's definitely another bucket list thing to tick off for me.
Definitely. I mean, something I'd just like to touch on is you sort of briefly mentioned it a little bit earlier. How sort of what kind of regulations do you guys have for droning out in Australia? Because we've just had sort of new measures implemented that make it a little bit more strict as to where you can and can't sort of fly. So, what's that like flying in Australia for you?
Yeah, it's pretty good here. We've just had some laws change so you can fly in national parks, whereas before you couldn't. And as long as you've got to have your drone registered, obviously, with CASA, and then, know all the standard rules, like you can't go more than 120 meters, 5 kilometers of an airport, all that stuff. But yeah, in terms of flying, you just can't fly over people. And I mean, if you're in a national park, you're technically meant to let the local shire office or someone know. So you're meant to just check, make sure they're not doing anything or have anything planned in the airspace that you're flying in on that day. But they can't tell you that you can't, basically, unless they have a valid reason. So yeah, we're pretty lucky. And then if you're flying commercially, obviously you need to have a commercial license. So I have a commercial license. It's just, you do it online, and yeah, then I can sell images, or they can be used for profit and stuff. So yeah, we're pretty lucky here. I know some other places in the world are much more strict. So yeah, grateful for that.
Yeah, I mean Canada in particular, I know they're pretty strict on sort of drone regulations at the minute, and I know for pretty much any flight you have to have a commercial license.
Yeah, right. See, I didn't know that, but then again, I'm not going to Canada anytime soon. So
So obviously you said you've got your commercial license. Have you sort of had any clients come to you and ask for specific drone shots that you've then sort of produced for them, or is it more a case of you just got that commercial license so you're able to sell your pictures?
I kind of just got it so I could sell my pictures, but also because I work in tourism, as I mentioned before, and my company we usually outsource imagery, and we usually pay photographers to go. But I really want to do more of that, and I wanted to get out in the region and shoot stuff, and then be able to use my images for the work that we do, which is promoting beautiful destinations. So yeah, that's kind of the main driver of why I got that, but also because I've started to sell prints and want to just be able to do more of that going forward. I haven't really had anyone reach out to me yet. I'm not, I don't think I'm quite quite there yet, but hopefully one day. I do have a website. It's just a blog at this point, but I'm hoping to kind of convert that into like a print shop where people could buy prints if they wanted to. Yeah, I don't know if there's a market for it, but for my shots, I mean, but we'll see.
So is sort of next for you then, is it you sort of want to continue sort of working where you are now and developing your photo for that specific area, or are you sort of wanting to go more, freelance photographer and go sort of full time into that?
Yeah, I think kind of for me, it's kind of a mix. I'm staying on with my role. I work full time in marketing, so I'm staying on in that role. But at the same time, I get to go out and explore, and I live in a beautiful part where I can do that. And luckily, I'm very lucky that work and sort of the freelancing, my photography passion and photography business is separate, so I can sort of do both, which is really cool because sometimes it might be a conflict or something, but it's tourism and the photos are mine and the skills are mine, then I'm luckily I can sort of dabble in both. I would really like to eventually I had this like vision that I would be a nomad one day and just sort of like, I'm a bit of an adventurer. I do have writing and, that kind of blogging experience. So it would be nice if somebody wanted to pay me to travel full time, in which case then, yes, I would love to just be freelancing with photography. And but look, I know it's not as easy to make a living off that. Us creators struggle a little bit. But yeah, maybe one day that might be on the cards for me. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean it's good to have aspirations, and obviously I think that's one thing that Instagram is great for, is obviously you can see what other people are doing and have that to sort of aim for, and I think having that constant sort of encouragement almost is really great, and obviously you're then always trying to better yourself, and self development is great, and you know everybody at every level I think is always developing, and even the most professional drone photographers will always say that they're always sort of bettering their skills and always learning more, and especially if you're sort of networking with other people, that's always going to sort of increase. Just sort of finishing up then, is there any sort of tips that you could offer for people that are just sort of starting out, anything that you've sort of picked up over your time flying drones?
Yeah, I think one big thing that I would say is just don't be scared. Like I feel like when I started I was so nervous, and look, it's hard not to be, like it's an expensive piece of machinery, and but it's just it just comes with flying. Well, that confidence comes with flying again and again, and the more flying you do, and yeah, for me, just being able to keep going out there and keep having a go and flying more is what's made me feel so much more confident. But also obviously going on the drone workshop, for me, being someone who had dabbled a little bit in drone photography but wasn't so confident on the actual remote flying, then I think that was so beneficial because I had some people who did know what they were doing. And actually, funnily enough, while I was on that workshop, my drone controller disconnected from the so the app, how you plug your phone into the remote, the app disconnected, so I couldn't see the screen, like what the drone was seeing, and I'd also sort of lost sight of the drone, and we were over a beach, like the drone was so far away, it was so stressful, it was one of the most stressful moments I've ever had. And but I had people around me, and I was like, if I was alone, I honestly don't know what I would have done. And I learned that on the actual drone controller, you can still see, obviously, you know, like your distance and your height and stuff. And then so you just sort of play around with the controls to until those numbers start to drop, because then you know it's coming closer or coming down. And you know, that's such a little thing and it's such a basic thing, but in those moments of panic, it's not something that you think of. So for me, that really like changed my whole, you know, I was like, oh, okay, there is a way to get it back, and there is something I can do. And just being able to sort of be calm in those moments, because yeah, my heart was beating so fast when I finally got the drone back. So yeah, I think having, you know, support people around you, if you're not that confident, you've got someone with you who also sort of knows or is learning as well, and you can bounce those ideas off, like we said. I think that's the biggest thing, because it's just made me feel so much like more confident at flying. And then just taking your time, you know, like it depends what drone you've got. Obviously, I've got the Mavic 2 Pro has, you know, like a 30-minute, just under, you know, not 30 minutes, but maximum 30-minute time on the battery. So you've got time, you know, to play with it. And it's like not a mad rush of, oh, quick, I've got to, you can actually just, you know, let it hover in the air and find your composition and have a bit of a play and familiarize yourself with the controls and everything. I think that's something that you forget, because I used to think I had to panic and quickly get the shots and then get the drone down. But no, I had time. And then the last thing I would say is definitely have that low battery warning on 30%, so that you're not, cutting yourself too fine when it comes to the low battery warning, because that can be equally as stressful.
Yeah, I mean, obviously with DJI stuff, you have that intelligent battery in the sense that if it's running low, it will, you know, as you say, it will remind you and it will sort of start to come back. And I think with sort of slightly cheaper drones, and obviously definitely with FPV stuff, if the battery dies, the battery's dead. So I think sort of getting used to knowing sort of roughly how long your battery lasts for, and getting familiar with the controls as well. I would always say, you know, don't go out to shoot a sunset never having flown your drone before. You know, fly it in your garden, get used to the controls, get used to the camera before you just go out and shoot. Because if you go out and shoot and you come back and you've not been able to capture that shot because you didn't familiarize yourself with it, you'll think, oh, this drone's, you know, is crap, I don't want it. And then, you know, it'll be a hobby that you don't enjoy. But, you know, just spending that time, or even just watching YouTube videos, as you've sort of said, it all helps.
Yeah, for sure. My first flight was like in a, you know, empty oval, so that nothing could go wrong, sort of thing. So yeah, definitely. And then I forgot that I get used to the intelligent flight battery, but not everybody has that. So yeah, definitely just knowing your battery and knowing knowing your drone, you know, familiarizing yourself with it, like you said, is probably key.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for taking time out of your evening to chat with us.
Oh, you're welcome.
Do you want to just remind everybody how they can find you on sort of Instagram and your website and that kind of thing?
Yeah, sure. My Instagram is Annabel Claire, and it's got an underscore on either side, and it's spelt ANNABEL and then CLAIRE. But if you type in Chasing Waterfalls into your little search bar, then I should come up, because that's my main thing. And then I have a blog, which is annabel-claire.com, and it has all these waterfall guides to the places that I visited. So how to find some of the waterfalls I've seen, tips and tricks along the way. Some of my photography is on there as well, but hopefully it's getting a revamp soon. And yeah, I'm always happy to chat, and really love to connect with people. So feel free to DM me and have a chat. I love that. I love meeting people through Insta. That's been such a highlight for me in terms of photography and the community. Yeah.
Cool. Well, as I say, thank you very much for being with us today, and thanks for coming on the podcast. And I hope everything in the future goes all well for you.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. It's been really nice to be asked, and nice to meet you as well.
Yes, you too.